Welcome to In the Cut, the show that gets you up close and personal with BN and our community.
Good afternoon, evening, and morning. Welcome to In the Cut, the show that gets you up close and personal with Black non-believers and our community. My name is Edith Gray, and I am your host for the show today. In the Cut is a production of Black Non-Believers, a 501c3 organization headquartered in Atlanta. We connect with other allies and Blacks who are living free of religion and might be otherwise shunned by community and friends by providing a caring, friendly, and informative community. Instead of accepting dogma, we determine truth and morality through reason and evidence. The mission of Black non-believers is to provide secular fellowship, nurture and support non-believers in coming out, encourage pride in non-religious identities, educate the public on the history and current state of non-belief in the Black community. We organize events and charitable causes. BlackNonbelievers.org. We welcome all, regardless of age, gender identity, sexual identity, national origin, or racial identity. However, our content and our work prioritizes Black non-religious voices. At this point, I would like to welcome to the show the founder and president of Black Non-Believers, Mandisa Thomas. Hello, Mandisa. How are you?
Hello there, Edith. It's been a long week since we've seen each other. It's good to see you again. And we're matching. We are twins with the hair this time.
I decided to go on. They have more fun, they say, so we'll see.
You know, I think that is kind of true. It's turning out to be a really, like I said, it's a hot summer. It's a busy summer. And just want to remind everyone that we are in the middle of our summer fundraising drive. We, as you know, Black Non-Believers is still heavily engaged in our community work. And your support and donations are needed. As a reminder, we co-sponsor the Hurston Scholarship in conjunction with the Secular Student Alliance. And we will share information later about any students, high school and college students who want to apply for the scholarship and others. So please do know that your support for our organization really does go a long way. It helps to fund this platform and the many activities that we do. And so it's really, really important and crucial. We rely on your support for the work that we do. And I'm just really, really excited today for our guest who you've seen on the show before. Very, very good colleague of ours. And we are really going to be talking about community engagement, what that looks like, and how, and really it's important to see how you can participate and get involved and should be more often. So please do, if you haven't already supported our summer fundraising campaign, please do. You can shout out to Kelly, who is moderating for us. You can go through Facebook. There are other ways you can donate directly through our website. You can Cashapp us. You can also contribute anonymously through PayPal Giving Fund for those who would like that option. And we accept different types of donations as well. If you have a charitable fund and also a workplace giving program. So definitely do consider all of the options to support the work here at Black Non-Believers. So do you have anything to add to that, Edith?
No, I think you've pretty much said it very well. And I just want to thank all the folks who are watching live. You could have been doing anything else or been anywhere else, but you're here with us today. So we appreciate you. And please do follow along and make sure that you find a way to donate as Mandisa has stated. pretty easy. I did
Yes,
a
and also
donation.
yes, and
Go ahead.
please do and like and subscribe and share this video as well. And do like and subscribe to our channel and watch all of our videos. So yeah, so thank you. And another thing I wanted to talk about before we bring on our special guests, it is the talk right now, which is very, very important. There was a documentary released recently called Bad Faith. And one of the producers is Todd Stiefel from the Stiefel Free Thought Foundation. I want to give a shout out to him. He is a huge supporter of Black Nonbelievers. And we want to talk about Project 2025, which is, it could be a reality if a certain a person is elected into office. Even if they are not, it is still a part of an initiative to basically try to dismantle the federal government on multiple levels. And as a household with my husband is a federal employee, and so we have seen firsthand about how like the shutdowns and changes in government administration can impact millions of people who are employed by the federal government. And so while it may look surface, it's very, very detailed, and the documentary Bad Faith goes into how bad Christian nationalism has inserted itself into politics, into public policy, and how things are governed and what they are trying to do. It is important that we are paying very, very close attention to them, to the folks around us. And it's a 900-page document. And I think that the documentary Bad Faith sums it up as well. There have been other shout out to last week tonight with John Oliver, who did a segment on it as well. And so it is important that we are staying aware of what is going on and what could take place in the next few years. And it's important that we exercise our civic duty so that this does not happen, so that we can mitigate it as much as possible as everyday people. Because as we saw, the overturning of Roe v. Wade was 50 years in the making, and so it spanned quite a few presidential administrations. And so this is something that could severely and adversely affect, again, millions and millions of people. When folks think of the federal government, they think of this. It is a big governing body, but it is made up of millions of civilians who work in various areas of the government. Part of that is military, part of that is other agencies. And they are also the folks who have drafted this project has definitely they are looking to eliminate quite a few federal agencies and try to make this basically an autocracy, a theocracy. And we cannot let that happen. We just cannot. And so if you have not seen the documentary Bad Faith, you can watch it on Amazon Prime. It's on Tubi. You can watch it on YouTube for a small fee. And so it's important that we are paying attention to what is going on so that we can continue as a community to continue to be aware and continue to stay active and stop this. I mean, it is very serious stuff.
Yes. One quick thing to point out, I believe Tubi is free, so there's really no bad option on how to view this. So yes, I'll definitely be watching. I'll be posting links to that. It's really concerning how the what they call career, not career politicians, career employees, people who have a deep actual knowledge of what they're doing in these seats of government. They do want sort of a cronyistic sort of hierarchy in place. So yes, it's something we definitely have to guard against. And like you say, it's been going on for years. We've seen, people with money just, just because they have money, they think they are capable to manage things. And that's just been completely debunked. Fail boys, what do they call them? Fail sons. At the hands of power is a bad proposition. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Anything do we want to bring up about? Well, we ended June, and June, the month of Juneteenth and Pride Month. I hope everybody was able to participate and celebrate those important marks in the year. But yeah, and then here we are, July 4th just passed. We'll still be having a lot of celebrations this weekend as well. But yeah, we're gonna move on. And if you don't have anything else, Mandisa?
Nope, I am good. We can begin the rest of the show.
All right, now it is our pleasure to welcome our special guest, Dr. Anthony Pinn. Anthony, or as we respectfully call him, Tony, is the Agnes Cullen Arnold Distinguished Professor of Humanities at Rice University. He is also the founding director of the Center for Engaged Research and Collaborative Learning and the director of research at the Institute for Humanist Studies. Tony, who is a former pastor, received his PhD from Harvard University in 1994. Other degrees include a BA from Columbia University, the Masters of Divinity and Masters of Arts, both from Harvard, and an honorary doctorate degree from Meadville Lombard Theological School. Tony is an award-winning author with a tremendous body of literary works, including Writing God's Obituary, How a Good Methodist Became a Better Atheist, When Colorblindness Isn't the Answer, Humanism and the Challenge of Race, and co-authored a masterclass on being human, a Black Christian and a Black secular humanist on religion, race, and justice. He has also been featured in the documentary God Talk, a production of the National Museum for African American Culture, which will be screened at the 2024 Essence Music Festival this weekend. Welcome back to the show, Tony, who also we're going to talk about the new book that you have out, The Growing Non-Religious Population and Principles That Make Up Black Humanism. Welcome back to the show, Tony.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Yes. So please tell us and our viewers, tell us the title of your new book and when it was released.
It's The Black Practice of Disbelief, and it was released May 21st, 2024.
Nice. Okay. Now, what are some of the distinctions between mainstream humanism and Black humanist practices?
There are several, but let me start with this, a historical difference. I think Black humanism and let's call it what it is, white humanism, have a very different relationship to the Enlightenment. For white humanists, the Enlightenment marks the supremacy of reason and logic, and it does push for a world in which reason and logic guide the day. But Black humanists also recognize that the Enlightenment perfected anti-Black racism. And so Black humanists understand that Black folks are the experiment, the underbelly of the Enlightenment. So we are critically engaging the Enlightenment when a whole lot of white humanists just accept the workings of the Enlightenment without any question.
Of your other titles, and I wanted to press on this differentiation between atheism and Black humanism, and that is an important factor, what you're bringing up now. That's great. So why is it crucial for Black humanists to be active in communities with each other?
It's important for Black humanists to be involved in community, to link with each other. One, because the importance of humanism involves more than a celebration of science education and a critique of church and state, that humanism has to be a soft place to land for folks who work against the dominant theistic orientation of the country, have to have a soft place to land. I think it's also important for Black folks who are already marginalized to find the like-minded, to provide a buffer, to provide some sense of continuity and support within a larger world in which they are demonized for being Black, demonized for being trans, demonized for being gay, demonized for being women, and then add on top of that, being demonized because they are non-theistic. Got to have a community in which folks can catch their breath, strategize, and affirm life.
This is very good. Yes, it is. How can Black humanism transform Black communities in this current political climate and the future?
Black humanism can help transform Black communities by, one, not simply celebrating critical engagement, but developing strategies, developing programming that help Black folks think critically about the world, ask good questions that prompt better answers, right? That in this way, by helping Black folks critically engage the world, ask good questions, Black humanists can help to dismantle all of the structures that normalize our misery.
Yeah, a follow-on question that I wanted to bring out, and it's kind of on the same vein, you know, as more African Americans espouse Black humanism, what areas of African American life do you think stand to improve most quickly and profoundly? Let's say as African Americans move toward Black humanism, let's say in the next 20 to 30 years.
I think one of the major alterations, one of the life-affirming alterations that takes place when Black folks move from theism to non-theism is a much more robust sense of themselves, a greater appreciation for themselves. Think about it this way. Within the context of Black church, this physical body and what this physical body wants, what it desires, how it moves through the world is held suspect. And you're talking about a tradition in which the human is understood as fundamentally flawed from the beginning. Add to that the ways in which issues of race further demonize the population, moving away from theism, moving away from that biblically grounded sense of disregard concerning humanity. Moving away from that offers up opportunities to rethink our value, to understand the importance of how we occupy time and space, and to move beyond these bizarre, unfounded assumptions about humanity being fundamentally flawed and incapable. It opens up a world of possibilities once you move from theism to non-theism.
Right. I agree. So in suffering in general, suffering from extended toil as a means to gain some eventual reward is something that's well-rooted and ubiquitous concept in the Black community. Aside from the plantation owners of the past and for their obvious ends, can you point to any early figures in the Black church that were also outspoken or helped to further this idea?
What you're talking about is the argument for redemptive suffering. And it's based upon a dilemma. For folks who believe that God is real and God is just, kind, compassionate, and capable in ways humans aren't, who hold that to be true, but also want to recognize that Black folks suffer and suffer disproportionately. Bringing these two together requires a compromise. And so within the context of Black Christianity, this compromise has taken several forms. One, the assumption that Black folks are being punished because we have in some way, in some shape or form, moved away from what God requires of us. And so this punishment is a learning process.
Right.
Others within Black theism will argue we just can't fully understand this, right? But God is good, so there's got to be some sort of purpose behind it, right? All of this is to say that Black theism, particularly in the form of the Black church, has accepted and worked based upon an assumption that something good is going to come out of our misery, out of our suffering. And it seems to me, to the extent we hold our suffering as redemptive, as useful, it makes it hella hard to push against injustice. This has dominated Black church thought. I'll give you an example. One of the more radical figures within the Black church was Bishop Henry McNeil Turner. He was a bishop in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, oldest Black church in the country. 1895 in Atlanta, Georgia, the same year that Booker T. Washington gives his famous or infamous speech, depending on your perspective, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner in Atlanta, Georgia, argues God is a Negro. This is a minister who also argued that the U.S. flag is a dirty rag until the United States does justice by Black folks. Right, so on some level, in terms of politics and social sensibilities, he's progressive. But he also argued in terms of Black suffering that God allowed this suffering of Black folks. And he argued God allowed it because God was using slavery as a schooling process for Black folks. He argued that this schooling process was meant to acquaint people of African descent with civil forms of government and the Christian faith, and that this information would then be taken back to the continent of Africa and used to redeem the continent. Yeah. He argued that this enslavement, this suffering in and of itself wasn't the problem. The problem was that white folks tried to take something that God meant as temporary, tried to make it permanent. And that was the problem. So even this radical thinker who understands that politics requires a fundamental change still embraced redemptive suffering, still tried to find something useful in the plight of Black people.
Yeah, I think partially, I don't know, I'm going to look at, you've probably heard of grind culture. It's something we see all over the internet. People, really talking about work, toil, work hard for a short period of time. I think there could be a little bit of a connection there. Like you said, redemptive suffering. You're going to get a reward after all of this. But yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up, that this kind of idea was used to further impact Africa. I'll say it that way.
Yeah, I mean, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner was a Pan-Africanist, but even this Pan-Africanist tried to justify the misery of Black folks, right? And we have a tendency within the context of the United States to try to individualize this. Well, some Black folks are doing well, but right. We need to look at this on the systemic level. We need to look at this in terms of communities. And overall, the Black community in the context of the United States from its very founding to 2024 has caught hell.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's one thing that I noticed about those who have faith. They want to bring it down to this personal mission, this personal thing that guides their life. But you multiply that 20 times over, 30 times over, and on, you've got a whole mass of people who are just pretty much concerned with their own well-being, and we're just never going to progress with that sort of attitude. I had another question for you. It was in your book, Anybody There? Reflection on African American Humanism. You posit that Black humanism is not overly concerned with God as a negative myth, but rather God as a liberating myth. Can you explain more what is meant by God as a liberating myth?
Yeah. So my argument is, within the context of Black communities, when it comes to the idea of God, the dominant story involves God being on the side of Black folks, concerned with their misery and working to make a difference in the world on their behalf. right? In this way, Blacks who adhere to any sense of God have assumed that God is trying to work in the world in a way that sustains their call for freedom. But there's a problem with that. The thinker William R. Jones wrote a book in 1973, Is God a White Racist? And it shook things up. And this was his argument, that folks will make that argument as a faith claim. But if you look at the historical record, you can also make an argument that this God does not like Black folks, that whites seem to do well under the authority of this God, but Black folks continuously catch hell. And so if you look at the condition of the Black community from the beginning of the United States to the present, again, you can make a reasonable argument that if there is a God, this God doesn't like Black folks. And that Black people claiming this God is on their side, working towards their liberation, is without evidence.
I have a question now, Tony. That was so powerful. And having been in this work as long as you have, and coming from, Black consciousness and Black nationalism, so to speak, how challenging has it been to really convey this with Black liberation folks, when there is this, there's this push for Black liberation, there is a cry for justice, but then there is still this subconscious acceptance of, like you said, redemptive suffering, and they're still holding on to this belief in God that even if as an institution the church has been helpful, the theology behind it has still been very damaging. So how challenging has it been to really have these types of conversations with other Black leaders and scholars?
It's difficult, right? I'm a non-believer, I'm an atheist, I'm a humanist, but I study religion for a living. So that just throws people, right? It creates a kind of intellectual dissonance for them. How can this possibly be? But here's my thing. Nobody would demand that the person who teaches Marxism in the philosophy department be a Marxist. But they assume that if you are in a religion department and you teach courses related to religion, you must be a believer. And that assumption, inside and outside of the academy, has made it hard at times to have conversation, right? Because for a whole lot of Black folks in my profession, I'm just an outsider, right? That I have surrendered any connection, any meaningful connection to the Black community because I'm not a part of the Black church. And that how could somebody who spent years in the Black church, was an ordained minister in the Black church, then leave it? Right. And so I think for a lot of folks, it's not really about what I'm saying I believe or don't believe. It's what my disbelief says about their belief. Right. So if you don't believe this, you say that nothing about this is reasonable or logical. Nothing about Black theism points in the direction of liberation. What you saying about me? Right. And I think that has made it difficult for folks. But I think whether folks are in the academy or outside of the academy, if you look at Black history, if you look at what has happened to Black people over the course of centuries, it requires some hard questioning that maybe the Black church isn't the answer because the condition of Black folks has not radically changed with the Black church. Right. So maybe we need other strategies. And for me, there is a fundamental flaw, and it grows out of Black church thinking. And it is outcome-driven strategies when it comes to activism. We shall overcome someday. Right. This assumption that things are going to work out for us because we don't labor alone. God is on our side. No historical evidence for this. But that kind of thinking limits what we're willing to do in the world.
Right.
Because we will only exercise activism, we will only exercise strategies that we assume are going to win the day. That limits thinking, that limits creativity, that limits push in the world. But I think non-believers have a more realistic sense of the world. They recognize that our best efforts have not won the day. And so maybe we need different strategies. Right. That rather than looking for that one big victory, what we ought to be doing is continuously saying no to injustice with increased volume and persistence. And in this way, make it more difficult to normalize the misery of Black folks and to understand that this struggle for justice is perpetual. For as long as we will have to struggle. And maybe the victory, if there is a victory, is in our ability to persistently struggle against injustice, not be defeated by it.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, it is liberating to know that we don't have to wait for somebody to come save us or for a supreme being to decide that the test is over and they're going to end the suffering. We can take it into our own hands. And yeah, I'm hopeful that unharnessing or our untapped potential as we move out of traditional Christian or traditional religions, I'm hopeful to see the untapped potential come to light. Mandisa, did you have any more questions for Tony?
Actually, I do. So I think we touched on this the first time you were on the show. And for everyone who did not get a chance to see Tony last year, we have linked that episode in the chat. Please check it out. So, you and I, you do a lot of work. A lot of your work encompasses hip hop into your research, into your activism. Can you tell the folks who are watching and listening today how impactful hip hop has been to humanism and how we can use it as a vehicle where it once was considered non-respectable? And I'm saying this as a hip hop head. I think Edith can agree as well. How hip hop can be so influential in how we help to reshape humanism in our communities.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I've been saying this for a long time. Let me address that in a couple of ways. One, it seems to me hip hop culture provides us with a strategy for growth. Think about it. That hip hop develops in the Bronx as the creative output of despised Black and brown people, marginalized Black and brown people. And now it has global influence. Anywhere you go, hip hop is present. It shapes and forms the vocabulary and the grammar of life that folks use across cultures. And Black humanism might want to look at that, yeah, in terms of thinking about how we grow, how we gain attention, how we increase our impact. And we do that by asking what has allowed hip hop to be successful. And I'll give you one example. One of the reasons that hip hop has been so successful in terms of transforming a global culture is that it understands the importance of a vocabulary of life, of an aesthetic, of a way of being in the world that is organic, that grows out of the community of concern, rather than a vocabulary that is imposed upon this community. Black theism imposes a vocabulary and grammar on the community. And Black humanism does itself a disservice if it exercises that same strategy. I also want to argue that hip hop culture is important, not simply because it gives us a way to strategize growth, but it offers a vocabulary, a grammar, a way of exploring and explaining human experience in a way that ties us to the material nature of our existence that is deeply concerned with the physical. It also gives us a way to understand a push for justice. It helps us to understand a kind of radical questioning of norms and the status quo, right? To the extent that hip hop can be tied to early musical forms like the blues, it gives us a way of looking at how generations have rethought, examined, and expressed anew their concerns, their experience, their vision for life.
So I don't have any other questions right
Thank you so
now.
much.
Well, let me say
That
one
was
thing, because I think this confuses folks a bit. So when I argue that Black humanism qualifies as a religion, I am not tying us to theism, right? I make a distinction between theism and religion. Theism is about God or gods. From my vantage point, theism has troubled life for us. That theism has taught us to devalue ourselves. That theism has justified misery and disregard. Religion is not the same thing. Every form of theism is religious, but not everything that is religious is theistic. Think about it this way. Some scholars have defined religion as the symbolic expression of life meaning, or others have argued that religion is a combination of our ultimate concern and our ultimate orientation. Neither one of those definitions has jack to do with God. That what religion involves is a process of meaning making, that religion is simply an effort to make life meaningful, and non-believers work to make life meaningful. I push in the direction of understanding Black humanism as religious because it gives us a way to explore, tap into, and present the non-rational, the non-logical dimensions of our concerns and our sensibilities. It gives us a way to wrestle with the awe and wonder we experience in life. It gives us a different way to think about how we ritualize life. Right. And Mandisa, you know, a whole lot of non-theists, a whole lot of atheists and humanists don't want to hear jack about ritual because they assume church. But ritual is simply repeated activity in founded space. So folks who tune in to listen to you are involved in ritual. Folks who go on that cruise are involved in ritual. Repeated activity in founded space. And we have to learn to appreciate these dimensions. If Black humanism is going to be a soft place for Black folks to land, it's got to do more than what white humanism is doing. Yay, science education, boo, church involvement, right? It's got to be more than that. It's got to get at these other dimensions of what it means to be human.
Right. And that brings me to another couple other questions. But the first one is when, you know, the overall state of humanism, or, you know, humanism as it is dominated by the white population, it often does not acknowledge, I think it's only recently acknowledged, the problem of people who have worked in science, because it was there were scientists who tried to qualify and justify racist practices, and also to actually scientifically say that Blacks were inferior. So it is very interesting that as Black atheists and humanists, we do bring that historical element to science and how it has often been flawed and fallible depending on certain human beings. But the overall community would like to ignore that. So I really do think that there is a historical component that we bring into Black humanism that the overall community does not. And so I definitely, you know, agree with that. And that is often something that I say as well.
Yeah.
And when we talk, like, you know, oh no, go ahead, Tony.
No, I was just gonna agree with you that I think Black humanists have no choice but to recognize that science and scientists live within the context of cultural worlds that inform and influence them. There is no other way to explain the Tuskegee experiment, right? So science has to be critically engaged, and a whole lot of folks work with a premise of blind faith when it comes to science, but then criticize folks in the Black church for their blind faith with respect to the divine, right? They do it with science, but critical here. And it seems to me you are absolutely right that we have to critically engage this and kind of recognize the ways in which science has been informed and influenced by rather problematic cultural norms.
Right. Yeah, people
Absolutely.
usually.
And this brings me to another thought. When you were speaking about, go ahead, Edith.
Oh, I was just going to say that
Yeah,
people
go ahead.
usually. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I hear you.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to make a point that people are very well, non-religious folks are readily able to see how an institution like the church is also sort of changing with the times, but it's not so often seen or understood that science is also doing this, updating as the cultural requirements come about.
Mhm.
Just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying
Yeah.
there earlier about science, Anthony.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all.
And this also brings me to another point about what you were saying about, religion really being about practice and also about ritual, as opposed to it simply being about theology. It's interesting that, and tying it into hip hop, we've seen gospel try to, incorporate, hip hop. They've incorporated like mainstream, they've kind of tagged along with what's popular. And so that's another way that we see religion and at least the church hijacking culture. Because the one thing we always said, and one thing I heard years ago, is that fellowship is not a religious word. It's not.
Right.
And
Right.
but of course, the overall perception is that the church and theistic people have the monopoly on what it means to create community and culture, which is absolutely not true.
Right.
And so, how is it? I mean, how can we effectively? I mean, and I know you might have said this through continued practice, like we do here at Black Nonbelievers, by the way.
Mhm.
But how can we continue to disrupt that narrative that this idea of creating community and support for people does not belong to theists, and that they really don't have the right to co-opt anything that is culturally related, because unfortunately those two are just so interlinked, especially among Black people.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think what we have to do in part is just continuously push the point. We push the point in conversation, but we push the point in practice, right? So to continue to do the kind of work that you folks are doing pushes the point and makes it extremely difficult for folks to ignore the fact that there is more to our communities, right? That there is a type of connection and engagement that requires more than conversation about science. Right? This is why we need humanist celebrants, right? Because there are dimensions of life that we need to be able to address. There are profound developments in our lives that we need to be able to celebrate. And there are profound losses within our lives that we need to be able to mourn. We've got to come up with non-theistic ways to do that. And we can't do it if we surrender all of this language of awe and wonder to theists.
Right. From the
It's
chat.
It doesn't make it theirs.
Yep. Very true. From the chat, someone, Ms. Hydra, says she saw a bumper sticker that said, "Make human rights your religion." And she thought that sounded right. And it makes sense. I agree, Ms. Hydra.
Yeah.
Human rights should be everyone's religion. It's not to oversimplify the point, but yeah, if people are treating each other as humans, then I think we'd be going a long way. That's good. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah,
Let's see. Let's go through the chat here.
Actually, I do have a question for Tony. So you and I spoke, and you recently took a course on hip hop. Can you tell our viewers a bit more about that and the takeaways from what was presented at this event?
Yes, Mandisa, I am now a recognized hip hop cultural specialist. I took the course on hip hop culture that's taught by the one and only KRS-One. It's a 3-day course. And the idea is this: hip hop is more than the music, it is culture. And to understand that requires more than listening to lyrics. It requires examining this culture the way you would examine any sort of culture. And his argument, and this was persuasive for me, he said this when he was at Rice University, is that a whole lot of folks teach hip hop without any grounding in it, that folks will teach hip hop without having had a conversation with any of its recognized teachers, that folks will teach hip hop, will reflect on the culture, but have never been to 1520. I was persuaded. So I signed up for the class. And again, it's 3 days, roughly 4 hours each day. And KRS-One leads you through some of the fine points, some of the unrecognized elements of this culture, and provides us with a vocabulary and grammar, some insights for better exploring and increasing our knowledge concerning the culture. It was fantastic.
Absolutely. So is it open to the general public, or you have to have a certain level of accreditation to take it?
It is open to anyone who's willing to get to New York. Now, the weekend that I took it, there was someone from Senegal, and I tell you no lie, someone from Senegal, folks from the UK, folks from Toronto, from across the United States who had come to take this class. So it's open to anyone who is willing to register, pay the fee, and get to New York. Anybody who says they are a hip hop fan, I would strongly encourage them, if they're able, get to New York and do this class.
Was it over the weekend, or was it just a day seminar?
It's Friday. It takes place on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Nice.
Typically 4 until 8. But the teacher, he just goes. So we were there 6 hours, 7 hours, just sharing all this wisdom with us.
In his
how about that?
So part of in the curriculum during the symposium, how much did the whole idea of Black atheism or Black humanism intermingle with what KRS was talking about?
It wasn't really prominent, right? It came up a couple of times when he talked in terms of folks involved in hip hop culture coming from a variety of theistic and non-theistic orientations, and that hip hop culture doesn't assume a particular theological orientation, that it's much more expansive than that. But there wasn't a whole lot of time and attention given to unpacking humanism's presence. That's been more my interest than his.
Sure. Okay. Well, Tony, thank you so much for being our guest today. We hope that you'll come back again. Please visit his website at https://www.anthonypinn.com to buy his new and previous books, learn more, and follow him on social media. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes,
Tony.
and Tony, we will be in touch. We will be in touch about an event that we are conceptualizing, that we are working on for next year in Atlanta in March. So we're gonna have you mark your calendar, because we need to have we're gonna need to have you there. So yes. Definitely. We'll be on the lookout for that invitation. So thank you. It is always a pleasure to have you here with us. We had a fantastic conversation in the chat, and we definitely look forward to seeing you again. And please do again get Tony's new book, The Practice of Black Disbelief, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you, fam. I had a wonderful time. Thank
Good
you
to
so
meet you.
much.
Thank you.
Great, great. We're just going to put you back on stage, put you backstage here while we finish up the announcements.
All right. Yes. So that was a wonderful, wonderful conversation.
All right.
Yeah. And now we want to talk about some upcoming events. We've got July 7th. That's just what is that, tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow's July 7th in Charlotte, North Carolina. Atheists Helping the Homeless, 8:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at The Wall. That's going to be at 164 Montford Point Street. You can register to be a part of that event at Black Nonbelievers of Charlotte on Meetup. And then on July 12th, Atheism versus Creationism. Mandisa Thomas debates Pastor Kent Hovind, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time in person at the Dinosaur Adventureland in Repton, Alabama, and online at our YouTube channel. I think we are trying to get some folks to take a road trip there. Kent Hovind's team has offered lodging, I suppose. I guess it's sort of a camp area. So we're looking at possibly having a little presence there to support Mandisa during this. Hope you can make it. And
yes, so they offer they offer cabins on a first come first serve basis, but it's right off of Interstate 65. So there are a few hotels along there. So if you'd like to come down on that Friday, and a shout out to Cynthia, who will be joining us. She will be coming down as well. We're going to be taking some video. And we will be, we're going to be like documenting our journey there. So this will be a very, very interesting event. And for those of you who want to come down, please do. If you are near or will be near the that area, it's about an hour away from Montgomery. So, and then also, yes, we will be streaming it live in conjunction with Hovind's channel, Genesis Baptist Church, so that we can offer it as a platform for our subscribers to watch as well.
Yes, someone in the chat said, the Kent Hovind? Yes, the Kent Hovind. So then for July 25th, you can join us for part 4 of the Can We Talk workshop series. This is in conjunction with Black Nonbelievers and Compassion and Choices. We're going to discuss financial planning and costs during this session. That's 7 p.m. Eastern via Zoom. It's free to attend, but registration is required. That you can sign up at bit.ly Can We Talk Part 4. August 30th, Black Humanist Studies Association's inaugural conference featuring Sabrina Dent, Candace Gorham, Mandisa Thomas, and more are hosted by Chris Cameron and Anthony Pinn. Registration and Zoom link will be available soon. So save the date for August 30th. And as Mandisa had stated earlier, if you know someone, a good student who would qualify, the 2024 Hurston Scholarship for Black non-religious students is now open for applications. This scholarship is awarded jointly by BN and the Secular Student Alliance. The deadline to apply is July 31st. And you can do that at the link. We should be posting the link in the chat for that. BNCCon is back in 2024 from November 29th through December 5th. Join us on Royal Caribbean's Independence of the Seas, which stops at Labadee, Haiti and Falmouth, Jamaica. That's near Montego Bay. Featured speakers include Chris Cameron, Candace Gorham, Dragnock Mims, Christy Puckett, Teddy Reeves, and more. Prices start at just $600 per person. Double occupancy includes cabin fare, taxes, port fees, multiple dining options, and the convention registration. The single occupancy cabins appear to be sold out, but there are other options available. Please secure your slot. I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be great. If you've never been on a cruise before, you will be among friends who will help you through. Cruising is great. I didn't think I would like it either, but yeah, it's great. So we're still seeking.
Fantastic.
Yes. We are still seeking new board members for BN. If you're enthusiastic, dedicated, and you like to have fun while working, please apply at bit.ly/BN board member. And then the Godless Gospel Project is still looking for singers, particularly tenors. This is a paid opportunity. You can submit your audition today at godlessgospel.org. And as always, we will keep you posted on social media, on upcoming shows. Check out the We Are My Dream Etsy shop and purchase your favorite crochet items. Custom pieces are available at the Etsy.com shop. We Are My Dream. Finally, if you're looking for a great gift to give at any time of the year, pick up a copy of Name Dropping, created by previous In the Cut guest and new BN board member Dina Williams and Jesus Reyna. Name Dropping is the frustratingly fun movie trivia card game. You can click on the link in the chat to purchase that today. If you have some summer family or friend gatherings planned, this would really be a great icebreaker. So we're going to close the show, Mandisa. I think it's been a good one. Appreciate Anthony dropping by. It was great to meet him. But yeah, that wraps up the show. We hope that you enjoyed the show and that you will join us again. As a reminder, we air every first and third Saturday of each month. Please don't forget to like this video and spread the word. Follow us on Facebook at Black Nonbelievers, Instagram at BNonbelievers Inc., and X, formerly Twitter, at BNonbelievers. The B and the N are capitalized. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at Black Nonbelievers Inc. Once again, we are getting closer to monetizing our channel, so we thank you for all tuning in and supporting us. You can find your local BN affiliate on Meetup. You can join all of them. Remember, we're looking for new organizers, so be sure to complete the volunteer form on our website. You can learn more and make your tax-deductible donation at blacknonbelievers.org/donate. If you want to present BN even more, you can get your swag. I have, maybe two t-shirts now. The red is really nice. If you want to, so we've got shirts, hoodies, mugs, shot glasses, and more from our online store at blacknonbelievers.org/store-2. Thank you, Mandisa, for being a great co-host. I think we did a great job there with Tony. And if you have any other comments, we can.
Yes, I do. So,
all right.
Yes. So at our store, you will see that you can pre-order a new shirt that we are debuting from Edith's appearance on Across Generations. We are pre-producing the Jesus was thrown under the bus so that God could get clout shirt. You can pre-order it today. Let's support Edith with that quote from Across Generations, because it was fantastic. It was just such a powerful delivery and such a powerful line. So in addition to your other BN swag, do pre-order that shirt, because we want to make sure that we represent as well. And just as we are talking about community building and the ongoing work that we are doing consistently, let's continue to do that and do so in the spirit, for lack of a better word, of love, of humanism and objectivity. And yes, looking at what does work, looking at what we can improve on, and also, yes, doing it where we are uplifting each other, because that is still very, very important. So thank you, Edith, once again for being a fabulous host. And we will, if you don't have anything else, we shall take it away.
Well, thank you guys, and have a great afternoon, morning, or evening. So take care, and we'll see you next
Enjoy
time.
the rest of your weekend. Bye.